Welcome back. In this example, we will deal something with Fibonacci series. So what is Fibonacci series? It's a series where every term starting from the third term is the summation of previous two terms. What do I mean by that? The third term 1 is the summation of the first term and the second term. You can see 0 plus 1 is 1. The fourth term is 2 because it is the summation of the second and the third term. So you can take, let's say, 34. 34 is the summation of previous two terms, 13 and 21. So this is our Fibonacci series. So the code asks us to write a program using while loop to display the first n terms of this series and the sum of these n terms. So this n is any number between 3 and 45, and the user will give this as an input. So let's say user is giving 5 as input. That means we have to show the series up to 5th term, and also we have to display the sum of these 5 terms. So the 5th term of the Fibonacci series is 3. So our output should be 0, 1, 1, 2, 3, and we also need to output the sum of these 5 terms. So let's see the code and let's get an idea about how it's done. Okay, yes, so our code, as usual, I'm skipping the headers and all. We have declared two variables. They are t1 and t2. So t1 is set to 0 and t2 is set to 1. So these are the first two terms of the Fibonacci series. t1 is 0 and t2 is 1. Okay, and the sum, we need to calculate the sum of the n terms, right? So we are declaring the sum also, but the sum is initially set to 1 because we have already taken two terms, 0 and 1, and their sum is 1. So we are declaring first two terms, and in the sum variable we are storing the sum of these two variables. So sum is set to 1. Then we are declaring the n. N is the number of terms which we will take from the user's input. So here you can see we have to ask the user to give the input, and the number must be between 3 and 45. So here you can see enter the number of the terms to be displayed, and the scanf function is used to scan the input, and the input is set to the variable n. Now at first we have to check that if the given number is valid, if it is between 3 and 45. So if it is less than 3 or if it is greater than 45, if any of these conditions are true, then we will print out that it is invalid. Then if it is not invalid, in that case we will start calculating. So at first we will write that the Fibonacci series up to n term is this. This is just the header, actually. You can see the heading of the printing chart. The Fibonacci series is this. Okay, then we know the first two terms already, so we will just print them, 0 and 1, and there is nothing new here, just printing the first two terms. Now the code will start from printing the third term, third to nth term. So we are initializing, as we have said earlier, for the while loop, the loop controlling variable must be initialized before the loop. So our loop controlling variable is I, and it is set to 3. And t is another variable. T is the nth term. If it will also update with the loop. You will see that it is a variable that will also be updated with the loop. If we have n terms, let's say 5 terms, we will start with the third term. So at t will be the value of the third term. Then in the next iteration, t will be the value of the fourth term. In the next iteration, t will be the value of the fifth term. As the loop progresses, the t is also updated. T is the value of the current term of the loop. So the loop will continue up to n. Of course, I is less than or equal to n. N is again given by the user. So for every term from the third term, now we can see that we are in the third term. I equal 3 mean 3 indicates that we're in the third term, right? So every term starting from the third term will be the summation of previous two terms, right? So for the third term, the previous two terms mean the first and the second terms, which are T1 and T2. So we are simply adding T1 and T2. So T is now the summation of T1 and T2. Now what we need to do is we have to update T1 and T2, because in the next iteration we are going to evaluate the fourth term, and the fourth term must be the summation of the second and the third term. So we are updating this in this way. The T1, which was the first term in the first iteration, now it will be the second term, because when we are evaluating the fourth term we need the second and the third term. So T1 is the second term now, and for T2 you can see we are having the variable T here. T is the third term, so again T2 is storing the value of the third term. So let me demonstrate this with an example. Okay, so we are starting with T1 equal to 0 and T2 equal to 1. So in the first step, let's say 0 and 0 comma 1, they're there. We are in the first step, we are evaluating T as T1 plus T2, right? So that is 0 plus 1, it is 1, it is the third term. So we are evaluating third term by adding these two terms, right? Now when at the end of the loop I is increased, I plus plus, that means now I is equal to 4, because previously it was 4. So now T will mean the fourth term. So for the fourth term we need this term and this term. They both will combine to make the fourth term, and that is, you can see, it's 1, and you can see it will be 2. So the fourth term will be 2. Okay. So how can we get this by the code? Initially T1 was the first term and T2 was the second term, and T being T1 plus T2 meant the sum of first and second term. And this is third term, of course. But when we need the fourth term, in that case we need the second and the third term. But initially T1 was first and T2 was second. So what we can do now, we can make T1 is equal to the second term and T2 is equal to the third term. So by doing this in every iteration, we can simply calculate T by T1 plus T2, because initially T1 was first and second, but in every iteration we are updating T1 and T2 according to our need. So T1 should be second and T2 should be third. So what is the second term? It was T2. What is the third term? It is T, because we are evaluating T as the third term. So now if we add this T1 and T2, we will get the fourth term T. In the next iteration we will again need T, which is fifth term. Now it will be the summation of third and fourth. But again T1 is the second term and T2 is the third term, so we need to update them. How do we update them? T1 is equal to again T2. Why T2? Because you see T2 is the third term and T2 is T. Why T? Because you see T was the fourth term, right? So that is how we are going to update. So in the loop we need to update T1 and T2 every time. Okay. So in every iteration T1 will be set to T2 and T2 will be set to T. I think that is clear to you now. So after setting the variables, we need to calculate the sum. The sum will be the previous sum plus the current term. In this case, let's say T is the value of the third term. We just evaluated in this line, T equal to T1 plus T2. Previous sum was 1. As we know, we have declared sum equal to 1. So in this stage you will update the sum by adding the new term to the sum. So in every iteration we are calculating a new term and we are adding that new term to the sum. In every iteration we have a sum, we calculate the new term and add it to the sum, and we carry it on up to our nth term. Okay. So now we can see that we have already printed the first two terms. So in every iteration we will print the nth term or the ith term. ith term, because you can see it now I equal 3. So we print the third term. So there is I plus plus, that means now at the end of the loop I will be 4, and then if it is less than equal to n, then again this loop will be executed, and another term will be printed, and this will go on up to n. After completing the loop, now we have the final sum, and we will just print out the sum. So that is all for the Fibonacci series. We'll meet again for the next video.